You're live. We're building an audience with you. So I think we're live.
Are we live?
I think we are.
Of course, technical difficulties always precede these things. We're just checking whether we're live at the moment.
Yeah, just give me 2 minutes, sorry. Yes, we are.
We are live. Oh, great.
We are live.
Sorry about that for anyone who's watching. So my name's Philip Poole. I'm speaking to you from Oxford. And I was talking a little bit earlier as well, really about the role of legumes and their importance. Legumes, there are actually almost 19,500 species of them. And there's probably 20 or 30 which are commonly used in agriculture. And some of those are incredibly important, like soybeans, peas, beans, alfalfa. You would probably know forage legumes like clover that are really important as well. But they're far more than that. Legumes actually have, for thousands of years, in fact, for much of the last 60 million years, have formed much of the basis of the biomass of the planet, because they're responsible for up to around 50% of the nitrogen in our biosphere. So that means in the amino acids and proteins in all living things. And that's because legumes on their roots have nodules with little bacteria in them. It's a symbiosis between these bacteria and the plant. And inside those nodules, the rhizobium take N2, that's nitrogen gas, which makes up 78% of the air, and converts it into ammonia, which is then given to the plant as a nitrogen source. And in return, of course, the plant undergoes photosynthesis, takes the sucrose out of the leaves, transfers it down to its roots, and the sucrose is converted into a thing called malate and succinate. These are so-called C4-dicarboxylic acids, just another carbon source that they can feed the bacteria. So it's an intimate association at the molecular level that enables the plant to get nitrogen, which it converts in a usable form, because it can't use nitrogen gas, convert in a form of ammonia, which it can turn into amino acids and proteins, and from that it can build these high protein grains. And this is actually what drives much of our biosphere, because nitrogen is the main limiting nutrient on our planet. It's the main thing that living things need to grow. And of course it's the legumes, as I said, that produce around about up to 50% of our nitrogen. And so they actually are at the base of the food chain on which all living things depend. And of course, this was realised throughout civilization. Legumes have been rotated with cereals because you need the legume for the high protein. The cereal gives you carbohydrate, and also when you've grown a legume, you improve the soil, and some of the residual nitrogen from the legume is then taken up by the cereal. Of course, that process was fundamental for hundreds of years, thousands of years, but of course population pressure meant that towards the beginning of the 20th century we needed other ways of getting nitrogen into agriculture, and that's when industrial ammonia production started around the beginning of the 20th century. And then we could start taking ammonia and a product of it, nitrate and urea, to feed to crops, and that could drive yields even higher. But that addition of chemical nitrogen onto fields also has problems. It can drive very high yields to give us vast quantities of cereals in particular. Those cereals are still not particularly high protein. We still need legumes to give us the protein we need. And then we feed that to animals or eat it ourselves as pulses and beans and peas, for example. But one of the problems when you put industrial levels of nitrogen onto fields for plants, at least 50% of that gets lost straight away. It doesn't get taken up by the roots of the cereal. And most of that then ends up as nitrate, which is then very mobile, ends up in watercourses, gets taken out to the sea, and it leads to eutrophication where you get algal blooms. And those algal blooms cause tremendous problems of using up oxygen in waterways, and that in turn kills fish and other animals because there's not enough oxygen in them for them to survive. Also, the nitrogen, much of that nitrogen that gets released into soil ends up as nitrous oxide, which is around 200 times more powerful a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So it is a real problem. And in fact, we now have in our atmosphere twice the level of reactive nitrogen. These are the sort of nitrous oxides and nitric oxides that we had pre-industrially. In fact, we have more nitrogen pollution than we do CO2 pollution. So it is a major problem for humanity to try and rebalance the nitrogen cycle. It's not just a a minor thing which has no influence. The problem is, of course, we need a lot of nitrogen to drive yields to feed people, and as human population grows even greater, we have a problem. We have we have this dilemma. We need yields, but we also have an environmental problem that's building up because of nitrogen. So we need to improve the way we use nitrogen. And of course, one of the things we can do is go back to using legumes more intelligently, to use them in rotation properly, to improve the yields of the legumes themselves by plant breeding, by improving the interaction between the microbes and the plant. Because remember, it's this plant, this legume, which associates with a very specific bacterium, I think called rhizobium, and the rhizobium that infects a soybean is different from the rhizobium that infects a pea. So we need to get the best rhizobia for a given species of plant in our agriculture to maximise our yields, and that would let us use less nitrogen on our crops. There are other types of solutions which are being proposed, which are engineering solutions, which include trying to put nodules onto cereals, and then of course we would need to actually introduce the rhizobia onto the cereals as well in a specific interaction. These are very long-term plans. No one is able to do this in the short term, and no one is talking about releasing these sorts of plants anywhere in the near future, but they're things we have to consider as civilization, how we're going to address the nitrogen crisis. And so one way is to try and put nodules on cereals and engineer, again, rhizobia to interact with those cereals. Another way is actually to take the specific enzyme complex, it's called nitrogenase, which is inside the bacteria, which takes the N2, the nitrogen gas, and reduces it to ammonia. To take that nitrogenase complex and actually put it inside mitochondria, which are the little energy-producing houses which we have in all of our cells, both animals and plants, but to take that nitrogenase and put it into the mitochondria of plant cells. So that the plants, in this case in cereals of course, could actually make their own ammonia via nitrogen fixation. Again, a very long-term plan, but there have been substantial progress made in being able to do at least the first steps of that. Another way is simply to take natural bacteria which also fix nitrogen in what we call a free-living form, just as free-living bacteria, and take some of those bacteria which naturally are very happy to associate with plant roots, including cereal roots, and in some cases actually try to improve that association and engineer it to make it a very specific interaction, and then to engineer those bacteria to give up that ammonia that they fix to the plant. So they're all possible solutions. They require societies to think about them. These are long-term issues that have to be addressed over the next 30 or 40 years. We have to consider what are going to be the winners. We actually don't know that at the moment. There are all sorts of questions there which societies have to decide. They're not for the scientists, they're for people at large to really try and make decisions about what is going to be the most environmentally sustainable way to improve our yields. We need an agriculture to feed a growing population, but at the same time not destroy the environment via nitrogen pollution and disruption of the nitrogen cycle.